Tonight, as you lie here with your body growing heavier against the bed, we are not in a hurry to go anywhere. There is nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to fix, no version of you that you have to prove tonight. There is only this quiet stretch of time, like a soft river of darkness, carrying you gently toward rest. For now, we simply float. Feel the way your body rests on the surface beneath you, the familiar weight of your limbs, the quiet pull of gravity that you do not have to fight. Notice the way your shoulders are held, perhaps a little tighter than they need to be, as if still bracing for the next demand of the day. You can let them rest now. Imagine them sinking a little deeper, as if the muscles are untying small, invisible knots, one strand at a time. Your breath is already moving without your effort. You do not need to improve it. Just notice it, like watching a small lantern flicker in the dark. Feel the coolness of the air as it enters through your nose, brushing the inner edges of your nostrils, drifting down the back of your throat, spreading quietly into your chest. Sense the faint expansion, the ribs opening just enough to welcome this breath. Then follow it as it turns around and leaves, warmer now, carrying away a little of the day with it. In this moment, you are allowed to put everything down. The conversations that did not go the way you hoped. The decisions that still wait for an answer. The worries that circle around like tired birds, looking for a place to land. Imagine all of them as a bundle in your hands, a small pile of papers or stones, each one with a thought written on it. See yourself standing at the edge of a calm lake at night. The surface is dark and steady, reflecting a long strip of moonlight. One by one, you release the stones into the water. You hear the soft sound as they drop. Feel the slight splash against your fingers. Watch the circles spread and fade. The lake receives everything without complaint. It does not argue. It does not judge. It simply accepts and becomes still again. Your mind might still want to think. That is all right. It has been busy all day, and it does not know yet that it can stop. Tonight, we are not trying to force silence. We are just inviting a slower rhythm, like walking instead of running, like whispering instead of shouting. If thoughts come, imagine that they arrive on small leaves floating along a stream. You do not need to chase them or hold them. You notice them passing by. Ah, there is the conversation from earlier. Ah, there is tomorrow's task. You see them, and then the water carries them further downstream until they are no longer clear, until they blend back into the quiet flow. Around you, imagine the room softening. The edges of the furniture blur a little, like shapes seen through a veil of mist. The ceiling above you feels farther away, as if the whole space has become a night sky. Somewhere in that sky, there is a gentle moon, not too bright, not demanding your attention, just a silent companion hanging there, watching over you. If you listen closely, beneath the hum of the outside world, you might sense a deeper quiet, a silence that has always been there beneath all the noise. That silence is like the ground of the mind, the open space where all thoughts arise and fall. It has room for everything you are feeling, everything you are carrying, without being disturbed. Tonight, we will walk together, through gentle Buddhist stories, not as sharp lessons, not as strict teachings, but as soft lanterns placed along a path that leads you inward, toward the part of you that knows how to rest. Each story is like a small temple hidden in the mountains of your own mind. We will step into one, sit for a while by the warm light of its hearth, and then move on, slowly, unhurried, letting the warmth sink into your bones. Before we begin our first story, take a breath in and sense the coolness filling your chest. Then let it fall out of you, like a sigh that doesn't even have to reach your lips, a quiet release inside. You are here. You are safe. You are allowed to set everything down. If your eyes are not already closed, you may notice them growing heavier, as if someone is gently placing soft pebbles on your eyelids, inviting them to rest. The body knows this ritual. The mind will follow. Our first story begins in a small valley, where morning mist clings to the ground like a thin blanket, and the mountains rise up on all sides like old, patient guardians. In that valley stands a modest temple, its wooden beams darkened by rain and years of sun, its roof curved gently downward as if bowing to the earth. At the very edge of the temple grounds, an old pine tree watches over everything, its roots gripping the soil like an old hand, its needles whispering quietly whenever a breeze passes through. Inside this temple lives a monk named Sora. His name means sky, but lately his heart has felt more like a crowded marketplace than an open blue. He rises before dawn, just as the first hint of light stains the horizon with pale gray. The bell rope hangs cold in his hand, its rough fibers pressing into his skin as he pulls. The low, deep sound of the bell rolls out into the valley, bouncing off the mountain slopes, waking birds and stirring small animals in their burrows. It also wakes the thoughts in his own mind. Sora lights incense at the altar, the thin stick resting between his fingers. When he strikes the match, there is a brief, bright flare, a tiny explosion of light in the dim hall. He hears the faint hiss as the flame catches, smells the sharp tang of sulfur, then the warmer, earthier scent of the incense as it begins to burn. Smoke curls upward in soft spirals, fading as it rises, disappearing into the air. Sora watches it, knowing that it is supposed to remind him of impermanence, of the way all things come and go. But his chest still feels tight, as if someone has wrapped a band around it and pulled. Every evening, villagers climb the stone steps to the temple, their feet brushing against the moss that grows between the slabs. They come with worries, a failing harvest, a sick child, a marriage that has become cold. They sit before Sora and pour out their fears like water from a full bucket, and he listens. He offers them words he has learned from sutras, simple phrases about letting go, about not clinging, about trusting the flow of life. They bow to him with gratitude, and he smiles gently. Yet at night, when he lies on his thin futon, the same words feel distant, as if they belong to someone else. He stares at the wooden beams of the ceiling, tracing the knots and lines in the timber with his eyes. The sounds of the night seep in, the chirp of crickets, the distant barking of a dog, the soft rush of wind slipping through the trees. Still, his mind does not settle. He thinks of the responsibilities of the temple, the repairs that need money they do not have, the villagers' faces filled with expectation. He wonders quietly, why can I bring peace to others, but not to myself? One autumn, after many such restless nights, Sora goes to visit the old pine tree at the edge of the grounds. The air is cool and crisp, the kind of air that makes each breath feel cleaner, as if it is sweeping dust from the inside of his chest. The temple courtyard is scattered with fallen red and yellow leaves, their edges curled and dry. He can hear them crunch softly under his straw sandals as he walks. When he reaches the pine, he places his hand on its trunk. The bark is rough under his palm, ridged and cracked with age. Little bits of resin have hardened in amber-colored beads that catch the dim light. He can smell the resin, a slightly sweet, sharp scent that reminds him of fireplaces and cold evenings. Above him, the branches sway slowly, the needles brushing against one another in a sound like distant rain. He closes his eyes and leans his forehead against the tree, feeling the coolness of the bark. "Why am I still so restless?" he whispers, though there is no one around to hear. "I teach them to let go, yet I cling to everything. I cling to their expectations. I cling to the temple's future. I even cling to the idea that I must be a peaceful monk. My mind is never quiet." A small voice answers him, not from the sky, not from some distant deity, but from the depths of his own tired heart. It says, "Because you have been trying to carry what was never yours." That day, Sora decides to visit an elder teacher who lives further up the mountain, in a smaller, more weathered hermitage. The path is steep, a narrow trail of stone and dirt that winds between rocks and stunted shrubs. As he climbs, he feels the strain in his legs, the pull in his thighs and calves. His breath comes heavier, puffing out in small white clouds in the cold air. Each step makes tiny stones shift and slide under his sandals. The mountain does not care about his worries. It simply stands, immense and silent. By the time Sora reaches the hermitage, his robes are damp with sweat despite the chill. The small house leans slightly to one side, as if bowing to the wind. The wooden door is worn smooth where hands have pushed it open for years. He knocks gently, his knuckles tapping against the wood, and after a while, the door slides aside with a faint rasp. Inside stands the elder, a man with a thin frame and a face finely carved by time. His hair is white, cropped close to his skull, and his eyes are clear but soft, like still water that reflects everything without clinging to any image. He does not ask why Sora has come. He simply steps aside and gestures with his hand for the younger monk to enter. The interior of the hermitage is simple. A low table made of dark wood, 2 cushions on the floor, a kettle resting over a small charcoal brazier, faint wisps of steam curling from its spout. A single wall scroll with calligraphy that reads, "Just this." The air inside is warmer than outside, holding the faint scent of old tatami mats, dried herbs hung in the corner, and roasted tea. The elder moves slowly, almost lazily, but with a grace that suggests he has forgotten what it means to hurry. He pours hot water into a small clay teapot, the hiss of the water meeting the leaves sending up a toast of fragrance. The scent of roasted barley rises, nutty and comforting, wrapping itself around Sora's senses like a shawl. The elder then pours the tea into 2 small cups, their surfaces slightly rough to the touch, irregular and handmade. Sora lifts his cup. The clay feels warm against his fingertips, radiating steady heat that seeps into his cold hands. Tiny imperfections in the ceramic brush his skin, reminding him that not everything has to be smooth to be beautiful. He brings the cup closer, the steam brushing his face, moistening the skin under his eyes. When he takes a sip, the liquid rolls over his tongue, both bitter and sweet, a deep, earthy flavor that seems to settle somewhere low in his chest. They sit quietly for a while, drinking. The elder does not rush to speak. The silence between them is not awkward. It is like a shared blanket, gently covering them both. Outside, a gust of wind rattles the bare branches of a nearby tree. A lone crow calls in the distance, its voice rough and full of life. At last, Sora sets his cup down, the base making a soft, hollow sound against the wood of the table. "Master," he says, his voice low, "I am tired. I teach the villagers to be at peace, but I am not at peace. My nights are full of worries. My mind clings to everything. I am afraid I am failing them, and failing the Dharma." The elder regards him for a long moment, his gaze as gentle as a hand laid on a sleeping child's back. Then he asks, when a traveler comes to you with a heavy pack and asks for directions, do you pick up his pack and carry it for him? Sora blinks, surprised by the question. No, Master. I show him the path, perhaps walk with him for a while. But his pack is his own to carry. The elder nods. Then why do you carry the packs of every villager who comes to you? Why do you take their worries as if they were your own? Even more, why do you carry the image of the perfect monk on your back, as if it were a boulder that you must never set down? Sora opens his mouth to answer, then closes it. He feels the words forming, then dissolving. He thinks of the faces that look up at him during evening chants, eyes full of hope and trust. He thinks of the temple roof that needs repairing, the donation box that is rarely full. He thinks of the nights staring at the ceiling, mind racing. I thought, he begins slowly, I thought that to be compassionate, I must take their suffering into myself. That a good monk is someone who never stops worrying for others. The elder pours more tea into Sora's cup. The liquid ripples gently, tiny waves breaking softly against the sides. Compassion, the elder says quietly, is not the same as worry. Worry is the mind's attempt to control what it cannot control. Compassion is the heart's willingness to be present with what is, without trying to own it. One is a fist, the other is an open hand. He reaches out and rests his weathered palm on the table. Show me how you have been holding your responsibilities, he says. Sora hesitates, then curls his hand into a tight fist, fingers digging into his own palm. He can feel the tension in his forearm, the slight tremble of effort. Like this, he admits. The elder's eyes crinkle slightly at the corners. Good. Now relax your hand. Sora slowly uncurls his fingers. At first, it feels almost painful to release the grip, as if the muscles have forgotten how to soften. But gradually, his hand opens, the palm spreading like a flower bud, unfolding. He notices the faint tingling as blood returns fully to his fingers, the delicate coolness of air brushing skin that had been held tight. Now, says the elder, place all your worries here, in your open palm. The temple roof, the villager's sorrows, your image of yourself. All of it. Sora imagines these things as small stones, appearing one by one in his open hand. They are different shapes and colors. A gray stone for the roof, a pale stone for the sick child of a farmer, a dark stone for his fear of failing, a smooth, glassy stone for the image of the peaceful monk he thinks he must be. He feels the weight of them resting there. Do you feel how heavy they are now? The elder asks. Yes, Sora says. Very. And your hand is open, the elder points out. The stones can roll off at any moment. Yet here they are, resting. This is what it means to hold your responsibilities with compassion instead of clinging. You do not throw them away. You do not pretend they do not exist. You simply do not fuse your identity to them. You allow them to be what they are, while your heart remains spacious. Sora looks down at his hand, at the invisible stones his imagination has placed there. For a moment, something in his chest loosens, as if a knot has slipped free. His breath feels a little deeper. In the quiet of the hermitage, the lesson is not thunderous or dramatic. It is gentle, like the way morning light slowly pushes back the night without a sound. Tonight, the elder continues, when you lie on your futon and the ceiling greets you again, do not try to push your thoughts away. Instead, place each one as a stone on your open palm. Say to each, You may rest here for a while, but you are not me. Stay with your breath, feel the rise and fall, and let the open hand hold what it can, without needing to close around it. In time, some stones will roll away on their own. Sora spends the rest of the day with the elder, mostly in silence. They drink tea, watch the light move slowly across the wooden floor, listen to the wind comb through the mountain trees. No miracle occurs. The temple is not suddenly rich. The villagers' problems are not magically solved. But Sora feels a subtle shift inside, like a door that had been jammed now opening a few inches, letting in a narrow beam of fresh air. That night, back in his own temple, he lies down on his futon. The ceiling is the same, the knots in the wood exactly where they have always been. The sounds of the night still surround him. But when the worries arise, he does as the elder taught him. He places each one gently on the open palm of his mind. Roof, child, harvest, self-image. He feels their weight, acknowledges it, and then returns his attention to the simple act of breathing. The air comes in, cool and quiet. The air goes out, a softness leaving his chest. Somewhere between those two movements, something unclenches. Little by little, like leaves drifting onto the surface of a pond and then sinking out of sight, his thoughts begin to settle. The night does not become empty. It becomes spacious. Inside that space, sleep approaches, not as an enemy to be captured, but as a friend who has been waiting patiently for him to stop gripping so tightly. And as Sora finally begins to drift, the old pine outside whispers in the darkness, its branches drawing slow patterns in the wind, keeping watch over the temple, over the valley, and perhaps, in some quiet way, over you as well, as we gently prepare to wander together into the next story, deeper into rest, deeper into the soft, open sky of the mind. As Sora's breathing slows and the temple sinks deeper into its own quiet, the night in the valley stretches outward, as if the darkness itself is one great, calm lung, expanding and softening. The sky above the temple arches endlessly, and somewhere, far away from pine trees and wooden beams, that same sky hangs over a city of concrete and glass, humming with late-night electricity. There, in a tiny apartment pressed between two taller buildings, a woman named Hana sits at a small kitchen table, staring at a mug of tea that has long since gone lukewarm. Outside her window, the city never fully sleeps. A distant siren wails and fades. A motorcycle growls past, then is swallowed by the thick night air. Neon signs blink in tired colors, casting a faint pink and blue glow on the opposite wall. In the alley below, a stray cat knocks over a metal can, the sharp clang slicing briefly through the darkness before everything settles again. Inside, the light above Hana is dim, a single bulb with a yellow shade that turns the room into a pocket of warm, tired gold. The table is cluttered with open notebooks, highlighters without caps, and a laptop whose screen still glows faintly, full of unread emails and unfinished tasks. The air smells of boiled rice from dinner, a hint of detergent from clothes drying on a rack, and the faint bitterness of the tea leaves steeped too long. Hana rubs her temples with the tips of her fingers, tracing small circles into the skin. Her head feels full, like a room crammed with furniture, no space to walk without bumping into something. She glances at the clock on the wall. The hands have crawled past midnight again. She has to wake early tomorrow, but her body refuses to surrender. Her mind tells her that sleep is important, that she must rest to function, and yet those very thoughts tighten around her like a rope. She picks up the mug and brings it to her lips. The ceramic is cool now, the tea only slightly warm against her tongue, losing its flavor. She swallows anyway, feeling the liquid slide down her throat and settle in her stomach. A part of her thinks, again, another night of this, of chasing rest as if it were a bus that keeps pulling away just as she reaches the stop. On the wall above her desk is a small image she pinned there months ago. A simple print of the Buddha sitting beneath the Bodhi tree, eyes half-lidded, hands resting gently in his lap. The lines are simple, almost childlike, and yet there is something in the curve of the shoulders, in the tilt of the head, that suggests an ease she cannot seem to find. She stares at the image and sighs, the sound barely more than a breath. "You look so calm," she murmurs inwardly, not really expecting an answer. How do you not get swallowed by your own thoughts? Her mind, always ready to respond, begins to list reasons. Projects due, bills to pay, parents to worry about, messages from friends she has not answered. The sense that everyone else is moving ahead while she is stuck in place. The thoughts come like a rush of traffic at an intersection with no lights, all of them honking for attention. She remembers something she read once in a book about Buddhist practice. It spoke of watching the mind as if you were sitting at a train station. Thoughts arrive like trains, some loud, some quiet, some old and rusty, some sleek and new. Most people, the book said, immediately jump onto each train, riding it all the way to its destination, even if it's a place full of worry or fear. But the practice is to sit on the bench, watching trains come and go, without boarding everyone. Hannah pushes her chair back with a small scrape against the floor. She turns off the overhead light, leaving the apartment in a softer darkness lit only by the glow from the street outside. Then she walks the few steps to her bed, the wooden boards cool beneath her bare feet. She can feel a faint roughness in the floor where the varnish has worn away, each subtle texture reminding her that she is here, not in her head. She lies down and pulls the thin blanket over herself. The fabric brushes lightly against her skin, the familiar weight settling across her legs and torso. The pillow beneath her head is slightly lumpy, shaped by countless nights of turning and shifting. She feels the curve of it against her neck, the way it cups her skull. Outside, the city hums on, but in this small rectangle of space, she makes a quiet decision. Just for tonight, she will sit at the train station. Her breath is shallow at first, quick and restless, as if afraid of the dark. She brings her attention to the sensation of air at the tip of her nose. In, a cool whisper. Out, a slightly warmer stream. The ceiling above her is dim, a hazy patch of gray, outlined by faint city light. Shadows from the window frame stretch across it, long and soft. A thought arrives. What if I'm too tired to perform well tomorrow? It's loud, like a train screeching into the station. She feels the old habit pull at her, that urge to jump inside, to follow the thought down all its tracks. The imagined failures, the tight chest, the stories about what will happen if she cannot keep up. Instead, she pictures herself on a wooden bench beside a set of tracks. The night air around the station is cool, the boards beneath her thighs slightly rough. She hears the metal rumble as the train pulls in, sees the doors slide open. The thought announces itself again. What if I'm too tired to perform? She acknowledges it the way you nod politely to a stranger, without getting up. In her mind, she says silently, worry about tomorrow. Train. And she stays seated. The doors close. The train pulls away, its lights sliding past her, decreasing until they are just 2 points in the dark, then nothing. Her body feels the faint echo of its passing, a small flutter in her chest, a tightness in her belly. Then those sensations begin to loosen, like a fist that has been reminded it can open. Another train arrives. Should I have replied to that message? What if they think I don't care? The voice carries the familiar weight of guilt. Again, she feels the tug to leap up, to run into the carriage, to rehearse every word she might say. But she imagines herself on the bench, feet on the ground, hands resting open on her thighs. She watches the train pulse in. The brakes hiss. The doors open with a soft chime. After a moment, the doors close again. The train rolls away, its wheels clattering rhythmically over the tracks, until that sound, too, fades into the larger hush. Her physical body is lying here in the dark apartment, the soft rise and fall of her chest the only movement. Her jaw, which had been slightly clenched, begins to loosen. Her tongue rests more heavily in her mouth. The space between her eyebrows smooths out a little. She feels the weight of her arms sinks deeper into the mattress, as if gravity has grown a little stronger, cradling her. Train after train arrives. Old memories, imagined futures, tiny embarrassments replayed, big fears about meaning and purpose. Some trains are loud, some slow, some clatter in with urgency, others glide silently. For each one, she practices the same simple act: noticing, naming, remaining seated. The station in her mind grows spacious, a large, open platform under a wide night sky. Stars sprinkle the darkness above, indifferent to each passing engine. Gradually, the trains come less often. The tracks gleam, but nothing approaches. The night air in the station cools, quiet and still. Her awareness, which has been watching the comings and goings, begins to soften at the edges, like ink spreading slowly through water. The boundary between breath and space blurs. In and out. In and out. Nothing to chase. Nowhere to go. As her body lies there, the mattress supports her fully. Every part of her that has been holding itself up all day is allowed to let go. The back of her head settles into the pillow. The curve of her spine is held. Her hips grow heavier, legs relaxing, feet dropping outward slightly. The hands resting on her stomach rise and fall gently with each breath, like small boats bobbing on a quiet tide. And as Hana finally drifts toward sleep, that little print of the Buddha on the wall sits unchanged, eyes soft, presence unwavering, like the patient station master who has been there all along, simply watching, never forcing, never boarding a single train. Your own breathing has been moving alongside hers. Perhaps the air comes in, and you can sense the coolness brushing the inside of your nose, tracing down into your throat, filling the soft space of your chest. The air goes out, and you feel the ease of release, the body emptying just enough, as if it has exhaled a small, invisible sigh. If you gently scan from the crown of your head downward, you might notice places that are already loosening. The skin of your forehead, no longer needing to hold expressions from the day, softens like fabric placed in warm water. The muscles around your eyes, so used to squinting at screens or focusing on words, begin to rest, as though your eyes are small lakes with ripples that are finally settling. Your cheeks feel heavier, gravity tugging them gently downward. Your jaw releases, and if your teeth were touching, they may part just a little, giving your tongue more space. Down through the neck, the muscles that held up your head for so many hours start to surrender their grip. The shoulders, that tense bridge between doing and being, are invited to drop. Imagine them sinking deeper into whatever supports you, the way stones sink slowly into a riverbed, finding a place to rest. The weight of your arms lengthens out from there, heavy and quiet, hands no longer reaching, no longer typing, no longer carrying. Your chest rises and falls in its own slow rhythm, that ancient tide that began the day you were born and has never stopped. With every breath out, imagine a little more effort leaving you, tiny threads of strain unspooling and dissolving into the surrounding darkness. The middle of your back presses into the bed, the lower back releasing any remaining attempt to hold itself upright. Downward still, the weight of your hips, the curve of your pelvis, the long, patient muscles of your thighs, all invited into heaviness. Your knees, often busy bending and turning, now simply rest, quiet hinges at ease. Your calves soften. Your ankles give in to gravity. The soles of your feet, which have carried you over pavement, tiles, and earth, now lie still, the toes smoothing out, no longer gripping. The whole body becomes like a long, quiet shore, and each breath like a gentle wave that rolls in, washes over, and rolls back out, leaving the sand a little smoother each time. In this soft, extended moment, you are not required to solve, fix, or decide anything. Your only task is to allow this slow tide to move as it always has, to trust that rest will find you in its own way. Far from city lights and train stations, in a small fishing village by the sea, an old man named Aki sits on a wooden bench facing the water. The night has wrapped itself gently around the houses, their small windows glowing like little lanterns. The air smells of salt and damp wood, of nets drying and distant smoke from a cooking fire that has almost gone out. So, the waves roll in and out against the shore in a steady, unhurried rhythm, like the breathing of some enormous, sleeping creature. The moon hangs low over the horizon, a pale disk with a slightly blurred edge, its light painting a trembling silver path on the surface of the water. Aki's hands rest on his knees, the skin wrinkled and thin, veins like small rivers beneath the surface. His back is slightly bent, his shoulders rounded, the shape of someone who has carried many years and many losses. He listens to the waves, but inside his chest another tide moves, the rising and falling ache of missing someone. His wife, Aya, was buried 6 months ago on the hill behind the village, beneath a cherry tree that now stands bare against the winter sky. Since then, nights have stretched long and sharp. He lies on his mat and sees her everywhere, in the way the curtains move in the breeze, in the bowl on the shelf that she once loved, in the empty space beside him where her warmth used to be. Sleep has grown thin and fragile. Sometimes he dozes only to wake with a start, heart pounding, hand reaching out for a body that is no longer there. He has tried to tire himself out with chores, with mending nets, with repairing old tools he no longer needs. But when the village quiets and darkness settles, the grief rises up like a wave, knocking him off his feet. Tonight, unable to bear the inside of the house, he came down to the shore. The wooden bench is cool against him. He can feel the grain of the wood against his palms, the slight roughness under his fingertips. The night air is cold, brushing against the thin fabric of his jacket, slipping under the collar to tap at the skin of his neck. Still, he stays. He watches the water. He remembers how Aya used to sit beside him in this very spot, their shoulders touching lightly. She would wrap her shawl tighter and say, "Listen, the sea is teaching us. It knows how to hold everything." At the time, he would laugh and shake his head, calling her poetic. Now those words return to him, heavy and soft. The waves roll in. There is the soft hiss of foam as they break, the gentle slap of water against rock. Then they slide back, drawing small stones with them, the sound of tiny pebbles tumbling and settling. Over and over, in and out. Aki feels his chest move with the same pattern, though more raggedly. He places a hand over his heart, the thin fabric of his jacket crinkling under his fingers. He feels the beat there, steady and persistent, like a drum far inside a cave. He thinks, I don't know how to let you go. The thought is raw, naked. It hurts. Part of him fears that if he lets the sharpness of this pain soften, he will be betraying her, as if loosening his grip on grief would mean loosening his grip on love. So he has held it tightly, night after night, clutching sorrow to his chest like a worn, familiar coat. But here, under the wide sky, with the sea breathing in front of him, another possibility begins to whisper. He remembers something the village temple priest told him after the funeral. Love does not disappear when the body does, the priest had said. It changes shape. If you clench around it, it becomes a stone. If you let it move, it becomes water. Aki takes a slow breath. The air enters through his nose, cold and sharp, then warms as it travels down into his lungs. He holds it gently for a moment, feeling the slight stretch in his chest. Then he lets it go, feeling the muscles soften as it flows out. He decides, just for this night, to try something new. When the next wave rolls in, he matches his breath to it. The swell rises, dark water gathering, and he inhales, feeling his chest lift. The wave curls, breaks, and washes onto the shore with a soft roar. As it spreads out over the sand, he holds the breath there, just for a heartbeat. Then, as the water retreats, sliding back toward the deeper sea, he exhales, letting his chest fall, letting a tiny portion of the tightness in his heart go with it. He repeats this, again and again. Wave in, breath in. Wave out, breath out. At first, his thoughts keep rushing back, clinging to images of Aya. Her laughter, the way she used to braid her hair, the warmth of her hand in his. Each time, he acknowledges the image with a soft inner nod. Then he brings his focus back to the wave, back to the breath. It feels, in a way, like putting flowers on an altar, each memory offered, not thrown away. Gradually, something begins to shift. The pain does not vanish. It sits there, low in his chest, but it feels less like a jagged stone and more like a deep, slow current. He realizes, with a kind of quiet surprise, that when he breathes with the sea, he can miss her and feel a small, fragile peace at the same time. The two are not enemies. They sit side by side in him, like two people sharing a bench. The moon climbs a little higher. The silver path on the water lengthens, spreading like a road that leads out into the darkness. A light wind brushes Aki's cheeks, carrying the faint scent of seaweed and distant pine. He pulls his jacket tighter, but he does not leave. He feels the bench under him, solid and supportive. He feels his feet on the ground, the packed sand firm beneath his worn shoes. He feels the rise and fall of his chest, the rhythm slowly sinking with the endless, patiently breaking waves. Eventually, his body begins to remind him of its age. His back aches, his fingers grow numb with cold. He stands slowly, joints creaking, and turns back toward the village. The narrow path to his house is lined with stones, their shapes familiar even in the dim light. As he walks, he continues to breathe with the memory of the sea, in and out, carrying the sound of the waves with him like a quiet mantra. When he lies down on his mat, the room is simple and still. The small shrine in the corner holds Aya's picture, a stick of incense burned down to ash. Aki looks at her face, the curve of her smile. The ache in his chest pulses, but now it is wrapped in the gentle movement of his breath. He closes his eyes. The sound of the sea is no longer outside. It is inside him, in the rise and fall of his own chest. He thinks, not with words, but with a feeling, I will love you by resting. 2. I will let the love we shared become a tide that moves through me, not a stone I must carry. With each exhale, he offers a little of his clinging to the darkness. With each inhale, he receives a little of the vastness that has always been there, holding both his sorrow and his peace. As his body grows heavier against the mat, the lines on his face soften, as if someone has smoothed his brow with tender fingers. The room around him blurs at the edges. The boundary between his skin and the air grows thin, like rice paper soaked in water. The breath continues, a gentle wave. In, out, in, out. Somewhere between those movements, he slips into sleep, not as an escape from his grief, but as a deep rest within it, held by the same quiet that holds the sea, the village, the sky, and you, as you drift a little further now into the soft, spacious dark, where one more gentle turn of the story waits to meet you. And as Aki sleeps beneath the hush of the village night, the sea continues its steady breathing, the waves rolling and unrolling like a long silk ribbon, smoothing the shore with every touch. His rest becomes part of that rhythm, part of that patient unfolding. And in the mountains far away, Sora lies on his futon, the open hand of his mind holding its stones gently. And in the city, Hana's train slow to a crawl, the tracks quiet beneath a large and starless sky. Each of them carried something heavy. Each of them learned, in their own way, that letting go is not abandoning what matters. It is learning how to hold it without tightening around it. It is learning how to let the heart breathe. You may notice, as these stories drift toward one another, that your own breath has begun to soften, as if slipping into a quieter rhythm that was waiting beneath everything else. The inhale moves through you, like a small tide gathering at the shore. The exhale falls away, warm and slow, like water returning to the deeper sea. One breath folding into the next, one wave meeting the next. Nothing rushed, nothing forced. If you imagine the three of them, Sora with his open palm, Hana sitting at the quiet train station of her mind, Aki breathing with the sea, you might sense that all their paths are pointing in the same direction. All of them discovered that peace is not something earned, or achieved, or proven. It is something uncovered, like a stone buried beneath soft earth. Something that was always there, waiting to be brushed clean. They each learned to soften their grip. They each learned that the mind can rest, even when life is not perfect. The heart can breathe, even when it carries scars. And you can rest, here and now, exactly as you are. Your body knows this truth already. Feel how the weight of it lies on the bed, matching its shape, surrendering more with every breath. Your legs feel heavy, resting more deeply into stillness. Your arms no longer clutch at anything, hands open, fingers soft, palms quiet. The spine loosens, vertebra by vertebra, as if something old and tired within you is finally being given permission to lie down. Even the muscles around your eyes, the tiny ones that worked all day, release their hold, the lids resting with the softness of petals closing at dusk. If any thoughts wander in, you do not need to push them away. You may place them on Sora's open palm, letting them rest without gripping. You may let them pass like Hana's trains, arriving, pausing, and moving on. Or you may let them ebb and return like Aki's waves. Your mind does not need to be empty to be peaceful. It only needs to be spacious enough to let things move without resistance. You're not required to do anything more. You don't have to improve, correct, or control anything in this moment. You don't have to try to fall asleep. You only need to allow the natural heaviness that is already gathering in your limbs, the slow warmth that spreads beneath your skin, the gentle dimming of thoughts, as if someone is lowering a lantern wick, little by little, until the flame is just a soft, glowing ember. Inside that ember is something steady, something good, something inherently worthy. You who have carried so much with such effort. You who have tried so hard to be strong in ways that others cannot see. You whose heart has weathered nights heavier than this one. You are allowed to dissolve into rest. You are allowed to be held by the darkness. You are allowed to soften into the quiet that waits for you. Imagine now that each of the stories is a small light in the distance. Sora's light on the mountain path. Hana's light at the empty station. Aki's light by the shore. One by one, these lights dim, not extinguishing, but lowering, softening, until they glow like warm stars drifting behind clouds. Their lessons settle into the breath rhythm inside your chest, merging with your own quiet unfolding. The mind begins to shift now, gently descending, as if stepping onto a long, slow staircase that leads downward into a softer world. Each breath is another step. The body grows heavier. The thoughts grow quieter. The air around you feels thicker, warmer, as if cushioning you, as if the darkness itself is a blanket pulled higher around your shoulders. You are drifting toward a place where language fades into sensation, where sensation fades into stillness, where stillness becomes sleep. There is nothing you must hold on to, not even this moment. Let it slip, like sand falling through an open hand. Let the body sink deeper. Let the breath slow further. Let the mind drift like a leaf on a river, guided not by effort, but by the gentle pull of rest. You have done enough. You are enough. You are safe to let go. Breath by breath, everything grows softer. Breath by breath, you move deeper into the quiet. Breath by breath, the world grows distant. Breath by breath, sleep rises to meet you, warm and low and boundless. And now, without needing to try, without needing to think, you drift deeper and deeper into the warm dark, where rest cradles you and carries you into silence. Modern life has trained us to hold everything with a clenched fist. Expectations, responsibilities, roles, personas. We grip them so tightly that we begin to believe the tension is who we are. In a world obsessed with productivity and being enough, even rest can feel like a task we're failing. We hurry through our days, then lie awake at night wondering why peace refuses to come. But here is a paradox worth considering. Much of our suffering doesn't come from what we experience. It comes from the way we cling to what we experience. The fear of disappointing others. The anxiety of appearing imperfect. The dread of losing someone we love. None of these pains disappear when we ignore them, yet they harden when we clutch them as part of our identity. We suffer not because life is inherently unbearable, but because we try to hold life still, as if we could freeze it long enough to feel safe. Ancient Buddhist wisdom suggests a counterintuitive truth. Ease is found not by resisting life's changes, but by allowing them. Letting the mind open, even slightly, creates enough space for emotions to move, and movement is what transforms them. Worry becomes compassion. Grief becomes devotion. Pressure becomes presence. The world tells you to be strong by tightening your grip. The old teachings whisper that true strength is the courage to loosen it. That spaciousness, that breath, that single moment of softening. This is where freedom begins. If this journey brought you a little peace, a little warmth in the chest, or even a single breath that felt lighter than the others, I invite you to join our sanctuary. This channel is a quiet corner of the world where you don't need to perform, compete, or pretend. Just breathe, rest, and remember you're not alone in what you carry. Before you drift fully into sleep, I'd love to hear one thing from you. Which burden are you choosing to loosen your grip on tonight? Your words might be the reminder someone else needs. If the stories comforted you, please like this video so it reaches others who are struggling. Subscribe so you can return to this peaceful place anytime your mind feels heavy. And if you know someone who needs rest, send this to them like a soft lantern in the dark. May you be safe. May you be free. May your sleep tonight be deep and healing.